Okay, everyone, this is the post-match for United States versus Germany. We just lost 3-1 in a match that we're going to talk about everything. The first half was very much different from the second half. Usually me and Pete do the post-game, but Pete has explosive diarrhea. Derek and Brett can't confirm. So we brought along our dear friends of the channel, Derek and Brett from the Straight Red Card. By the way, their handle is on the description, so you guys can go subscribe to them as well. Derek, Brett, who wants to go first? How are we feeling?
I felt really good first half. I think I texted Brett. I said, man, I haven't felt this good in a while.
Yeah.
I know it's 1-1, but that looked really decent. And then it kind of went downhill in the second half until the very, very end. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the details. He's just asking me how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was titillated in the first half and slightly let down in the second. Titillated is not a bad
joculated.
word.
Were you joculated?
No.
Okay.
Jocular.
Jocular.
Yes.
And Brett, what about you? I mean, I'm assuming we kind of all have the same sentiment in regards to that.
Oh, I thought it was a tale of two different teams, two different halves, two different teams. I thought the first half was incredibly exciting, back and forth, open game. We didn't look out of our comfort zone at all. And then second half was different.
Mm-hmm.
Or more along the lines of what we were expecting.
From Greg.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say, I think now that we can start diving into the game itself and how it went, talk about the first half, then talk about the second half, why it went downhill, right? Because obviously taking out Gio Reyna does hurt the team, but it's not just that, right? It's not like the drop-off just happens magically because Gio's out of the field or Pulisic or whatever. And Giberino told you guys that our defense was crap. The defense was not good today, for sure. I think we have enough good players on defense to build a very solid back line. But yes, today it looked like crap. And well, Serginho Dest is usually bad on defense regardless of like who's playing there. So there's a little bit of that. But everyone, drop a like in the video and let's start talking about the game. Usually me and Pete, we talk about like positives and negatives. So why don't we start with like positives first? I think positive, each one of us give one positive, then we'll go into negatives. We can talk about the negatives too. Derek, give us one positive of this game.
That Greg actually, and you know, when Brett and I did our last show, we did 3 different possible starting formations, not lineups, although those did change depending on the formation. But one of ours, the first one we did was a 4-2-3-1 with Gio playing on top of that midfield. And that's what we got. We got a 4-2-3-1 with Gio being the connector. And he did a great job at that. It was fantastic. I know that you said that it wasn't just that Gio left because, we also changed formation when Gio left and we looked totally different. So staying positive, though, first half looked really good, even though we were exposed a number of times. But, you know, it was a toe-to-toe battle, back and up and down the field, back both ways. And I thought it said, hey, we're willing to go toe-to-toe with you. And that was positive. That's my positive.
Okay. What about you, Brett?
Ironically, when we did our formations on Thursday's show, the first lineup we did was a standard Greg 4-3-3.
Oh, yeah, it was,
and we did it with Luca De La Torre instead of Reyna.
Right.
And we saw that, right? But the second lineup when we included Reyna, obviously the 4-2-3-1, I think the big gap between the first and second half there, as far as just like noticing a positive and then noticing what was the issue there, is I thought that Germany actually respected a lot of Reyna's game.
That's true.
And they kind of held back. They respected the fact that he could open up the defense. And then once he was out, the respect was gone. And all of a sudden they just sort of steamrolled our midfield. And we saw that. But as far as just a positive, it was nice seeing Reyna in there doing well. Everybody else is playing well. There's a great amount of chemistry between the players, just simple flicks between the legs. And it was fun to watch.
We saw some good performances. Yeah,
I think ultimately one of my favorite positives from the first half was actually watching Scally play. I thought he was incredibly solid in the defensive third. Getting into the attacking crosses, not there yet, but still, I enjoyed that aspect of it.
I think the overall game was positive. Everything about it was positive. And that may sound very weird. Very, very, very weird. Everyone's going to say, what do you mean everything was positive? That was a crap second half. But the crap second half was wonderful for us long term. Because the truth is, it got exposed.
Mhm.
Like what works, what doesn't work, how we should play. If you notice, after
Good point.
the third goal, he pushed De La Torre high up the field like Gio was playing. Because when we were playing on the defensive shape in the first half, sometimes it looked like a 4-4-2 even, because Gio was right next to Balogun, all the way up top. The setup of the build out, the eights or McKennie and Musa weren't going wide. Berhalter ball. The fullbacks weren't pushing high up the field the way they normally do with Berhalter. Now, when the second half started, he went back to Berhalter ball. Classic Berhalter ball. We're all used to it. When Germany scored the third goal, he switched back to how we looked in the first half, even though that's not the ideal position for De La Torre. He was like, we need to change the setup. The fullbacks need to stop pushing high up the field. We can't have McKennie and Musa go wide and leave that hole in the middle. The hole in the middle that let Germany just pass the ball around. So I think overall the game was very positive because we showed in the first half we can hang with Germany. I thought it was mostly an even first half with a slight advantage to Germany. I thought Germany was a little bit better. They had a bit more chances. They exposed our defense a few times, but we exposed their defense too. Pulisic had a one-on-one with the goalkeeper that he tried to flop and get a penalty kick. There was also a goal from Pulisic that he was allegedly offside. I didn't see the replay yet. Could have had a goal there. Balogun missed the chance. So we created a lot in the first half. We looked good playing that way. It looked more like a 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 defensive shape, whatever you want to call it. It was definitely not a 4-3-3. I thought the overall game, the story of the game, was positive because of what went right and what went wrong. What went right are good things for the long term. What went wrong are things we can throw it out. Like if Greg Berhalter has half a brain cell, he'll just go on. It's like, okay, maybe I should stop playing.
Just half. Yeah.
He did understand that during the game, though. He did see it.
Because he went back to it. Yeah.
Yes. So he saw it, or BJ, whoever. So I thought overall the game, what happened in the game was positive, and from my understanding. And I talked about this too during the preview. The result is the least of my concerns because it's a friendly. You lose 3-1 to Germany. Also, you can lose 3-1 to Germany. That can happen. They're a very good team. I personally think that they have enough talent to be World Cup contenders, in my opinion, Germany, if they get things right. So I thought overall it was positive. And I know that some people are going to say that that's not how it will be with Greg, and it was crap. And yes, I think being crap was good because if Berhalter ball had worked, he would have persisted on it, and we know it doesn't work. But it can work sometimes on accident, but it didn't.
Right. No, the 4-3-3, when we went back to it, my first thought when I saw Luca De La Torre trotting onto the field at halftime, I thought, okay, we're just going to go back to the 4-3-3. And then I noticed there was this period where we stuck with that. It wasn't working. He did make the change. You all of a sudden saw Luca De La Torre playing more on the top. And I thought, did he just learn something? Is it possible that Greg Berhalter just learned something and changed?
I think he panicked.
Well, yeah. So it was interesting because they even mentioned it during the broadcast that Berhalter even mentioned that when it comes to McKennie, you can't necessarily put him in a box. You can't put him, hey, you're going to be you're this role. This is your role. You kind of have to let him free roam. Well, at that point, if you're letting McKennie free roam and your two options as far as being a higher up midfield offensive option between Musa and Luca De La Torre, you have to make that option to push one of them up, because you can't just sit there and say, okay, we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 with McKennie and Musa, because McKennie has that free roam at play.
But McKennie was pretty disciplined about that today in the 4-2-3-1. I thought he was relatively smart. The only thing I noticed is Musa and McKennie were running their freaking balls off because they were covering so much ground in the midfield. I was like, these guys are going to be dead at halftime. That's the only thing about, that 4-2-3-1 when they have to do all the covering. And boy, did they have to, even in the first half. They looked like, especially McKennie in the second half, looked tired to me. He looked tired.
Yeah. And I want to add one thing. I think this will be mostly in regards to like the negatives, because I will talk about Serginho Dest at some point, because I think a lot of the things with his defensive liability, is more like something mental. He like tunes out. It's not really like he lacks the athleticism or the positioning. There was a ball that Germany put out a pass, and the ball was literally in front of him. He could have just cleared it, and he missed it. It's just like a ridiculous way, as if he wasn't focused on the pass. We'll talk about Dest at some point. And Abubakar is saying Dest out, McKennie out. I thought McKennie was fine, and I think Dest is still probably our best fullback option. The problem is defensively, he is a freaking liability. There's no way to argue against that. Stephen Agishi's, go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought there were a lot of defensive liabilities out there today because in certain circumstances in the game, there was so much open space in the middle. And it just, it made everybody have to tuck in a little, and that makes the wings even more, they looked exposed. So,
the second half
covering a lot of space is what I'm saying.
But not just that. The problem with the second half too was when you have your fullbacks pushed high up the field like Greg loves, and then you have your 8s go wide to create. When you lose the ball, your 8s are wide and your fullbacks are high up the field. So when the 8s go inside, you leave space in behind on the flanks. But if they don't go inside, you leave space in the middle. It's just a shit show at the end of the day. But he continues to play Berhalter ball, the same positional play. The first half was a lot better. The only thing I'll tweak, and maybe we can talk about what we would change from the first half, is I thought Gio was going – so he was playing central for sure. But when we were in possession, he kept trying to go wide to get the ball, where I kind of wanted him to stay central. I know it's uncomfortable to get the ball central sometimes with a lot of players on you, but I kind of wanted him to try to get it central and try to create from there. He was very often going to the right, I think, and trying to combine with Weah. I would have preferred if Gio stay uncomfortable in the middle and try to create through there. That's just nitpicking too. It wasn't really an issue.
It was more along the lines of Gio looking for the open space. Because
that's what I thought.
I think Germany's midfield definitely clogged that central area up. So he pushed out right a lot, got the ball combined with Weah a number of times. And you had when during some pregame pressers and stuff like that where Balogun had mentioned how he enjoys playing with Gio, which is an obvious statement, obviously.
Right.
Duh. But you saw it, while Gio didn't necessarily connect with Balogun so much in this match, he definitely had those same type of plays that he was connecting in Nations League with Balogun with Weah. And that created some opportunities. Mm-hmm. And again, that's another thing that just disappeared in the second half.
Before we go to the negatives here, which we kind of mentioned a few, but there's a lot to talk about. Let me just go through the super chats here. And then, guys, just hold on the super chats so we can progress with the episode. I'll only go at the end. Stephen Agishi saying massive reality check for the United States. Yeah, I mean, when we play outside of CONCACAF, you get a reality check. You play teams that when you make mistakes, when you F up, they punish you. And that's what Germany is. There's quality. Mac Ryan saying, any thought on a back three? Weah left wing back, Musa left wing. I like to see Paredes at the left back. Johnny looked easy. I thought, no bias here. I know I'm talking about a friend here, but I thought Johnny, on the little minutes he had, looked. Most of the players, like Aronson, also looked fine. Johnny, Pepe looked fine. The players that came in when we were adjusted, they looked fine. Mac, we'll talk about the back three soon. I think Derek kind of mentioned, or one of you mentioned it briefly. So we'll talk about it soon. Mac Ryan, I meant right wing back, not right wing. Weah and Musa. We'll talk about it. I mean, Weah plays right wing back for his club.
Did you see in the second half, though, that Weah did come back and kind of play as a right wing back with Scally?
And Scally was pushing high,
yeah.
Which I don't think it's a smart thing to do with Scally.
He can't
cross, dude. He can't cross.
Can't cross, no.
Mac Ryan saying, Luca De La Torre, not the answer as a backup. We need a better box-to-box. Well, he can be a fine backup box-to-box. The problem is he's not going to be the backup of Gio Reyna.
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
Alex Better saying, U.S. was out-coached. Germany adjusted, crowded out the midfield, giving us wings because there was no danger. Richard was asleep involved. I don't know if Germany adjusted because Germany didn't change that much from one half to another. We changed.
Right.
I think we de-adjusted.
Like I said earlier, the only thing they changed was the amount of respect they gave us because they came and pressed us instantly in the second half. Now, after they went up 3-1 with 10 minutes into the second half, they kind of released and then we kind of adjusted as well. Mm-hmm. But the only thing I think changed was their level of intensity.
Yeah. Maybe they got a bit more comfortable too, right? First game with Nagelsmann, figuring it out. And Joey's saying that their press was very good also, by the way, as always. Yes. That second half was the soccer dads want if Gio was blacklisted. A lot of soccer dads didn't want Gio back. That is true. DCAT is saying this team would benefit from a Juve system. Allegri soccer terrorism? No, thank you.
No.
A little bit true. It's a little bit true because we could be pragmatic, but I don't want to watch that. Get that away from me. I hate watching Juventus. You guys watch Juventus?
Yes,
I do. Yeah,
we do.
I think maybe he's just pushing Weah to right wing back, and that'd be the system change, right?
Yeah, we can also play
it'd be
Mourinho ball. Play Mourinho ball. Sit back.
It'd be a three center back with two wing backs on the side. So I mean, it would be a three, whatever system Berhalter would play with three center back at that point.
3-5-2 maybe.
3-4-3 maybe.
Berhalter maybe he would put wing. I don't like 3-4-3 when you play with wing backs. I like the wing backs to provide the width. Otherwise, you have the actual like wingers have to pinch inside, which we don't have a lefty winger that could start on the right wing. To be honest,
I mean, if you play a 3-5-2, you're basically saying Pulisic's going to play one of the center forward spots or
probably Balogun and Pulisic up top with Rain at the 10. I'm okay with Pulisic there, like floating around, just like roaming. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work though to go from what we're doing now to that. I think that's a totally different. I don't know how much they've even worked on it yet, because what I've heard they've worked on is a 3-4-3. So I could be wrong, but anyhow.
Guys, I want to address this one here. He's saying the problem is the lack of a defensive midfielder. Well, we had a defensive midfielder. Just because Tyler Adams is not there doesn't mean you have a defensive midfielder. Also, it kind of looked a little bit like the game against the Netherlands in the World Cup in the second half, where we were just like exposed in the middle, exposed down the flanks. Very similar, right? And we had Tyler Adams against the Netherlands. So you can have him there if you play like that, and you can get him exposed. I don't think that was the issue in my opinion.
No, I don't think that's the issue. We started with a double pivot. That shouldn't be necessarily the issue. And I was actually texting Brett during the game and saying, this looks so good in the first half. It almost looks like we didn't need Adams as a starter anymore, because that looked really decent. Yes, there were openings, but I thought, for the most part, McKennie and Musa did their jobs. It could have been worse. But what Musa and McKennie can give you playing a double pivot that Adams can't is they can progress the ball forward, whereas Adams usually doesn't do that. He passes it sideways. But anyway,
ideally, Adams, the Adams and the Adams types would be there to break up the offensive plays and just do the easy pass out wide to either the backs or to the other 8 in that situation, or 6 or whatever. You did text me and say, like, well, Adams is clearly watching himself getting played out of the U.S. roster here, or at least the starting
11.
And then immediately afterwards, like I think like the next 5 minutes, there was some glaring holes in our midfield. I'm like, well, those holes would generally be filled up with Tyler Adams. So
that's true.
You can look at a player for what his faults are, and you can say like, we have this person instead, but he does bring a different aspect to the game, and that's literally just breaking up the offense.
He's a destroyer.
Yeah, he's just out there to destroy. And we have that also with a player like Maloney. I mean, I still want to see him play and get a chance.
You will.
But if you're going to play an Adams or Maloney type, then you have to really have a very offensive midfield option as well. You have to have a Gio. You have to have a Tillman.
But in the first half, I thought we were fine. I know
Absolutely,
we had again, when you also play Germany's going to create chances. No matter how good your defense is, they have the quality to create chances. You're playing players that play for Bayern, Musiala, Leroy Sané, Gundogan.
Musiala was great today.
Yeah, so they're going to create. And I thought in the first half, they created, of course. They could have had more than one goal. They hit the post, but we created too. And that's how I want us to play. And I thought we did fine the first half. The second half, the issues were not lack of Tyler Adams. We didn't have Tyler Adams in the first half, as far as I'm concerned. Right. And we had him against the Dutch team in the World Cup, where we lost 3-1.
Right.
Arguably his worst game of the World Cup, but yes, I agree with you.
Well, it was also the toughest team.
Yeah.
I guess some people would argue England, but England was just a weird game. England didn't play to their potential in that game. Credit to us, too. Tactically, we were very good. Also, Southgate is a horrendous coach, probably worse than Berhalter.
Well, they're friends. They're good buddies. So.
They're almost twins. Almost twins. Carlos Mebrano saying Aronson trying to be Messi was interesting. Aronson, we're going to do player ratings very soon, and I thought Aronson was actually fine today. Aronson wasn't bad.
No, he's good.
Zach saying, let's protest at the next game. 50 signs of fire, Greg. I mean, guys, if you go to the game, protest. I'm not going to the game because I cover here the games. They're also not close to Orlando. I don't feel like spending money on this right now. But guys, if you're at the game and you agree with us of like, we're not for Greg, yeah, put a sign. That's harmless. That's just protesting. That's fine. Don't get violent or anything like that. But a sign saying fire Greg, you can do that.
Just add another G there, Zach. It's triple G.
Yes.
And
Otherwise,
below
they fired the wrong Greg.
Yes.
Below fire Greg, put a hashtag subscribe to the Straight Red Card as well.
That's a good idea. Great sign. It's great.
Brilliant sign.
High Octane, same goals were conceded against the Dutch in the World Cup. Exactly. With Tyler Adams playing. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. Baby Z saying, I'm just glad we don't have to see Jesus Ferreira. Yeah, I mean, we don't have him. We don't have to even talk about him right now. Otherwise, it just seems like we're hating on the kid, and he has nothing to do with this.
Right.
But everyone, now let's talk about, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe we'll go around everyone and we give our biggest negative, our biggest negative of the game. We can all give a moment. You want me to go first while you think, or you got one already?
I've got one.
I got one.
Okay, so before Brett goes, everyone drop a like. Let's get it to 500 likes. Brett, go ahead.
My biggest negative was the lack of pressuring inside and around the box. We sort of just let Germany dribble around and small passes here and there and break us down. We didn't pressure high enough. There was even a time where it was like about 10 yards outside of our box where Musa, and I'm not sure who else was around Musa at that point, was not pressuring, and then all of a sudden you saw Chris Richards split between them and pressure. It didn't amount to anything, but it was just there's a lack of pressuring in our defensive third, and I think that's what hurt us in the end.
Yeah, I was kind of along the same line for me. It's like we all stood on the penalty box line, right, and in a row, and there weren't enough guys poking out and trying to stop the movement around. And eventually that's just going to get penetrated. And it did. And then you saw many times Musa dropping back between the two center backs in those instances. So, you had maybe McKennie out there doing the only pressuring at the beginning. That's going to get broken down at some point. And, we're lucky we didn't give up more than one goal in the first half, but they were lucky too. So still another, I guess if I had to do a different negative, is that Greg went back to Gregging it for a while. But as you said, that turned into a positive because even Greg noticed that Gregging it wasn't working. And he said, no more Gregging it. I'm going to go BJ it. And that's what we got.
Why did it take 10 minutes for him to realize that somebody had to push the fire?
It took 2 goals.
Yeah, it wasn't the 10 minutes. It wasn't the minutes. It was the 2 goals. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't nothing to do with the minutes. It was the goals.
Shouldn't they have left the halftime saying, okay, well, we need somebody to sit up higher, spread their midfield out, open up their defense? I don't know. Instead, we just sort of sat back. Let's sit in a straight line. We're tied 1-1.
I think my biggest negative was that it does seem like, and this is not an excuse, because especially the second half, I thought he was fairly poor. But again, he's a player that we need to still figure out how to utilize and how to get the through balls. And I thought the biggest negative was probably that we didn't really feed Balogun as much as I would like to. I'd rather us feed him a lot and him just suck. But we are like, okay, at least we figured it out and he'll get it going eventually. Yeah. But it becomes one of those performances that's kind of hard to say he was good or bad, because I don't think he was as involved that I was want to. Of course, he was in the combination play that led to Pulisic's goal, but that goal was like 90% Pulisic. But
he trapped the ball and did a two-foot pass to Pulisic as he split 3 or 4 defenders.
But I thought many times he was trying to make those runs that he makes in France, and they're like, even Gio, no one was really putting those through balls for Balogun, which is where he's at his best. So I think that's the biggest negative to me. Is not even the result of losing. It's more of like, we still haven't gotten that going. There's time. There's plenty of time. And I want to see how it works against Ghana. Maybe we'll get it going there. But today I didn't see much progress there, I think.
I think you give Reyna another 20 minutes, that might have happened, right?
Maybe,
but
yeah.
You yank Gio out right at halftime. And you got to keep in mind that Gio's chemistry with Weah and some of the other guys are kind of instinctive. And they're all just, as you said, just learning how to play with Ballo and Ballo with them. So I said,
yeah.
I say, like you say, give it time.
I think the other issue is that even Reyna didn't get the ball all that often. I mean, he got the ball some, and he created chances. But as a whole, I think the play predominantly still went through Pulisic and Wade, which is perfectly fine. But if we're talking about feeding Ballo, we need to make sure we're also feeding the guy who's going to be feeding Ballo.
Mm-hmm. And then in the second half, we just looked terrible in regards to creating anything. We couldn't feed Balogun. Pulisic kind of like couldn't really be himself anymore because we were also slower. It went back to Berhalter ball where you were not as dynamic. The eights were not in the midfield. There was no Gio Reyna to so that was the negative in the second half. I think one thing we can skip upon, I don't know if there's any more big negatives you guys want to address, or maybe if it's player specific, maybe you can talk about on the ratings, because then
sure.
I think if it's player specific, we can do in the ratings. If it's something as a collective unit, we can, as the system or how we utilize play, then you can say it now or just stay quiet forever.
No.
Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was going to say no. I mean, we can cover that in the individual player performances. So yeah, I'm good with that.
I will say one thing that I mean, outside of maybe obviously the play coming into the second half, I do want to give Greg a bit of credit here as far as player management is concerned, because one of my big gripes last cycle was waiting too long to even make a sub. And I know that we're still kind of working flow into the system as a whole, and maybe that's why I gave him an extra like 15, 20 minutes into the second half. But I think I texted you, Derek, at like the 53rd minute saying, hey, if we don't have this creative option in the midfield, then we need to bring in Pepe, because we're talking about two different types of strikers here in that sense, where Pepe is going to do more of the, like literally like just like checking back, and he's going to offer that big body to hold the ball up and play it out, because that's the way that Berhalter Bowles plays. You don't utilize the 9. And at that point, you can't rely on the lack of service to flow and hope the guy creates something. But as I say, bring in Pepe at that point.
If you're going to play Greg ball, then you got to play Pepe.
Striker.
Right, you got to play Pepe. Even though, your 9's just going to be useless if you play Greg ball. So,
and then MJ2873 is saying, what's the best formation for the current team? Look, based on the evidence of what we watched, and Berhalter hasn't tested many formations, so it's kind of hard to say if a back three would work or not. We have talked about the back three with wing backs, but probably from what we've seen, probably a 4-2-3-1 as of now, because we haven't really tried anything else. So how the heck are we supposed to know at this point?
Yeah. I mean, when we've tried 5 in the back, or if you want to call it 3 in the that looked horrible. But that was some time ago, so hard to say.
Could we look at more of a 4-4-2 with the diamond, and you have an Adams-esque
a 4-4-2? What are you, insane?
Crazy? 2 strikers. I know it's insane, but you play with an Adams. Come on back to me. There we go. You play with an Adams type of destroyer. You have your Musa McKinney, and then you still play with your Reyna, and then you offer the wings, your backs options to move up into the attack. And you have 2 strikers to play on. I've always been a proponent for 2 strikers.
That's so 2008, Brett.
I know that was a little after my heyday, but that was still around my heyday, Derek. I mean, 2 strikers. That's how I played.
Yeah,
4-4-2,
baby.
Steve actually, Gali is saying, I was at the game. Balogun was trying to make the runs, but no service. Was clearly frustrated. We noticed this on TV as well. Musa looked off. Weah looked lost and tired. New Turner was bad at his feet, but worse in person. Scally strong. Yeah, but Matt Turner was bad at his feet, but Matt Turner also saved our ass in the game multiple times with his saves.
Matt Turner only had that one flub the first minute of the game. Yeah, that was scary as shit. I thought the rest of the game he was fine with his feet.
No, but shot stopping he was very good.
Oh,
very,
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
I didn't think Weah was that bad, especially in the first half. I thought Weah was good in the first half, actually. Weah was good in the first half. But yeah, second half was like almost everyone was bad.
Yeah.
Besides the subs that came in later, they looked fine.
Until that tactical change, after the third goal.
Luca Del Toro wasn't good either today. We'll talk about it in the players. Abubakar saying U.S. needs a better coach like Conte, Bielsa, maybe Jesse Marsh. I don't know how much better Jesse Marsh actually is. Bielsa is taken from Uruguay. Conte is still available, but I don't think we can afford him, or he would even want the job.
Didn't Conte just take a job? I just read a rumor yesterday. He's up
Antonio
for a job.
Antonio, let me see. I mean, he got fired. I don't think he has a job right now.
No, he doesn't. But there were rumors yesterday that he was going to take a job. I just don't remember which one it was. Somebody's getting fired, and he's taking it. So
Greg
anyhow,
Berhalter. No.
I don't know if I want to watch Conte ball either. Frankly,
No.
it's more terrorism stuff. I'm just not interested.
I mean, he would force McKinney to get like an 8-pack.
He would.
He would get McKinney to have an 8-pack, but let's go. Oh, they're saying Napoli rumors. Okay, poor Napoli. They're gonna have to watch Conte ball, but they'll get results. Let's do player ratings. Let's go player by player and do player ratings. We'll start with the starting 11, then we'll go in order with the players that came off the bench. Why don't we start with Matt Turner? I'll start with Turner. We'll take turns. I'm gonna give Turner probably. So at the end of the day, he did concede 3 goals, which is never good for a goalkeeper, but you got to actually look at the context of it. Were any of them his fault? I don't remember any being his fault.
No.
Made some brilliant saves. We probably would have lost by more. Shaky with his feet as expected. I'm going to give Turner a 7.5 out of 10, which is good. By the way, 5 is not bad. 5 is average. So 7.5, I thought Turner had a good game. Let's go with Brett. Actually, this one.
I was actually thinking 7.5 as well. The funny thing is, you bring up the whole 5's not bad, and it is considered an average score. But when you start seeing like a 5.5 on any of the ratings on any site anywhere, you're sitting there going like, "Oh, it must have been a bad game if you got a 5.5." But you're right. Out of a 10 score, 5 is just mean, he was average. Ideally, I think that's the case. Well, but, I think 7.5 is an apt score for Turner in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with grades because that's what we do on our show, and I'm just going to give him a B. I think he gets a B.
Give him a B plus, and that's it.
B plus, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going with A, B, C, D.
That's what we do. Yeah.
You can do the numbers. I'll do both, and then Derek will do letters.
I'm a former teacher, so that's how.
Okay, we're totally not going to confuse the audience. That's their problem, not ours.
I want you to do this on a 4-point. Derek, I want you to do it on a 4-point scale. Not even the. Not even
do a GPA.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you give somebody a 7.5 in school, that's a 75% out of 100, and that, frankly, is a C. So, or a C minus. So
D.
That's just D
for my school.
Depends.
We have higher standards, I guess.
No, I went to 3 different high schools, and they changed at every high school I went. So there you go.
Okay. So let's do like this. Next one. We'll try to put numbers when we can. But next one will be let's do the fullback. So we'll start with Joe Scally. I thought defensively, for the most part, when tested on 1v1 situations, you've had some nice recoveries, some good moments defensively, Joe Scally. But going forward, it was just kind of like the same thing as always. The guy can't cross. Combination play ain't very good. There's some limitations in regards to that. I'm going to give Joe Scally a 6, which is a slightly above average performance. I don't think he was bad by any means, but there was nothing great. I can't really criticize. It's somewhere between a 5 and a 6 for me, but I don't want to say just average. I thought he was a little bit above average. So actually, I'm going to change. 5.5, slightly above average. 5.5.
Thank you for changing it because I didn't want it to look like I'm just copying your score here. I initially had him at a 6.5, especially that first half. In the second half, I mean, obviously his attack is suspect at best. But in the second half, there were a couple plays where he got caught up in the attack, and then he kind of jogged back instead of getting back. And they had a couple of opportunities on his side. So I knocked him down to a 6. So I'm glad you went to a 5.5. Like I said, I don't want to sit here and copy you the entire time. Just 3/4 of the time.
Well, it's so funny that on one of our last shows, I said, yeah, Scally going forward he's not useful typically. And then he scored, of course, on the weekend. Yeah. And then he did his little thing where he did
Derek,
chirp.
I'm not listening to you, Derek.
And I do understand he does watch our show sometimes. So I was like, is that me? But anyhow, that's just me being paranoid. I would give Joe Scally the same score you guys just gave him, somewhere around that area. But if I'm doing the alphabets, I'm giving him a C+, B-, somewhere around there.
Purely defensively, I thought he was great. Offensively, lacked it. So you got to mix it in there somehow.
Okay, next up, I'm not going to go first. But just going to answer one question here from Soccer Savin. He's saying, do you think Reyna starts versus Ghana? I think he'll start again and be subbed at halftime. That's what I think will happen. I think it'll be the exact. I think so too. And it's Avdi. Thank you for the $1. Nothing written on it. And MJ2873 is saying, how would Jurgen Klopp do with the U.S. men's national team? Jurgen Klopp is one of the greatest managers of all time. I don't know if he would be the best possible option for the U.S. men's national team, but I can assure you he would be the best coach we've ever had in history for the U.S.
He'd finally get the opportunity to coach Pulisic.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
Stephen Nagishi saying, what do you think of Greg's comments of Balogun the other day? It's like him telling Balogun to accept his tactics or else. I mean, Greg kind of says that to every team, that he needs to fit the system, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully at some point we understand how to use Balogun, because the guy is also scoring for Monaco now. Like, he's doing it more than
is it surprising, though, that he comes out and says, I have no idea how to use this attacker. The strikers boggles my mind. I don't know how to do it.
And then in the interview yesterday on US Soccer with Balogun, they asked him, what some of the challenges were. And he said, well, it's been mostly challenging to learn the system and learn where I need to be in this system. It's not easy. It's not simple. When I heard him say that, I said, oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, I didn't mean to say the F word, but.
Did you hear Pepe in the background? He goes, well, welcome to the party, pal.
Exactly. And you shouldn't have a player who's been with you now. This is his, how many times he's been with us? He should be totally acclimated at this point. And get in interviews, he's still saying, I'm not 100% sure what the hell I'm doing in this system. That's not good.
What about this then? Serginho Dest. Go first, Eric.
Dest, I'm going to give a C. I'm going to give him a C.
In numbers?
In numbers, I'd give him a 5. Just like
average?
Yeah, I'm going to say it was average, because I've come to expect a lot more from Dest now, especially after watching him come back and play so well at PSV, and for the most part, be defensively responsible. He was really good in various moments going forward today, so I'm giving him positives for that, but then the negatives kind of, get rid of all those positives, and he comes down from being what would have been a good number just back down to a 5, which for me, I'm expecting from Dest every game a 6, a 7, an 8 even.
I got
a 5. Okay,
I'm going to be harsher. Do you want to go first, Brett, or you want me to go?
I was teetering between 5 and 5.5, quite frankly. Below average. If you're mixing it, he got turned around like a top when playing it defensively.
But it's Sane.
But he is playing against some quality competition. He was decent enough in the attack getting up. I will say though that has Dest really had a overall standout performance on the left for the US?
Never.
He's had moments. He's scored goals. He's done various things here and there, but he's never, when he's on the right with Weah and McKinney, or sometimes McKinney's not all the time McKinney, but when he's on the right hand side with Weah, he's a different player than when he's on the left hand side with Pulisic.
He looked fine today going forward with Pulisic.
I think he's fine. It's just it wasn't the Dest, as you said. It's not the Dest that we're used to.
Yeah, I'm giving him a 4 though, below average game.
Okay.
Because going forward, yes, he had some good moments. Wasn't perfect, but had good moments. Was able to draw that yellow card in transition against Matt Hummels. That was a good play.
Yep.
Had some good moments, but defensively, again, man, he kept allowing Leroy Sané is a lefty, and we all know that. I hope he knew that too. And he was playing on the right wing. So the best thing you can do is, first things first, when you're playing against a player, would you rather let him cut inside to get a shot, or would you rather force him to a cross, an uncomfortable cross? You want to force him to a cross. Exactly. Sané is a lefty. Yeah. You force him to get a cross of his right foot, which would not be as good as him. The first goal wasn't all on Dest, and the midfield also had a hole, but Dest kept allowing Leroy Sané to go central every time, and he's a lefty. There's also a moment where he almost gave Germany a goal where they passed the ball and he couldn't cut it clear. And the second goal, or third goal, I can't remember which one, he was the one that kept Fulcre onside.
Third, yeah.
Not 100% his blame, but pretty big blame right there. I can't give him an average performance because of that. I don't think his offense was good enough to make up for his defense. That's why I won't give him a 5. So I'm giving him a 4, below average. I don't think that was good. And then let's do this. Let's do the two center backs sort of together. I thought the performances were quite similar, in my opinion, for the center backs. I'm going to give them both also a 4 for both of them, but I need to explain why. I thought they were exposed a little bit because the midfield had a hole. It wasn't just them, but Chris
Right.
Richards sometimes, a lot of ball watching, even Tim Ream. The only thing they look good was on the ball. They're able to pass. They're able to pick a pass, long balls, Tim Ream. But overall, I thought it was a below average performance from Tim Ream and Chris Richards. Not a disaster. You would think their performance was horrible, allowing 3 goals, where Matt Turner was not to blame. But I would say a 4 for Ream and Richards is fair, with Tim Ream maybe being a tiny bit better, which I'll give like Ream a 4.25, something like a little bit better than Chris Richards.
4.1.
I would definitely give Ream more, because Ream
Yeah.
took more responsibility. He made better passes, cross-field passes, and we're used to that from Ream.
Mhm.
We know he can do that. But, yeah, I think that Richards was a liability. They were both sort of a lot of ball watching, as you said, sometimes. But at least getting out of the back, I thought Ream was better there. And, of course, they leaned on Ream when they needed to get play out of the back. And they didn't lean on Richards. Richards leaned on Ream. So I'm giving Ream more credit because he has more responsibility.
So it wasn't great. And I mentioned earlier on the show that one of my biggest gripes was the lack of pressure in and around our box, and that also falls on our center backs as well. I think the 4 for Richards is sufficient. I don't think he had that great of a game by any means. I think there are moments where he had some decent plays here and there, but nothing great. I think Ream was better, but there was still that aspect of ball watching. So I think give the Ream a 4.5 or a 5. I think it's splitting hairs at that point, because I think his ability to move the ball up, and God, he had that really smooth cutback in the middle of our box too. That really
He did that a couple times, actually.
So
yeah.
I feel like maybe a 5 for Ream is fine, but a 4 for Richards is apt.
Okay. Now we're going to move to the midfield, and let's start with the double pivot. We'll do one player at a time. Derek, start with Yunus Musa. It's a tricky one, actually, Yunus Musa.
You know what? This isn't the Musa I was hoping for today.
It's not the Musa we saw at AC.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making me give him a number, I'm going to say a 4 probably, because I've seen him play so much better than this. He made some really bad choices and passes. He tried a flick pass at one time that almost led to a breakaway. He made
missed the corner.
Yeah, he missed a header, which he really should have gone on top of. For Musa, from what I'm expecting from him, this is a 4.
I'm going to go with a 4 as well. I thought more or less I would give him what I gave like Ream and Richards, more or less. I thought it was that. It wasn't a disaster class, but they can play better. He should play better. And even in the first half, where I thought our team was good, Musa was fine. Obviously, everyone was fine in the first half, but he wasn't one of the standouts, if that makes any sense too. So I'm giving Musa a 4 as well. I thought it was below average performance from Yunus Musa. I don't think he played well today. We know he can play better. So there's that.
Well, it's just sad because you saw flashes of the moments where like he would get the ball and he would be pressured by 2 of the German midfielders, and he would just spin around and get out and make the pass out and do good things here and there. But it was just a very lackluster performance, I think, quite frankly. So I'm going to be generous here. I'm going to say more of a 5.
Yeah, that was very generous, actually.
Yes.
But, okay.
Yeah.
What about
nice
Weston?
guy from time to time? Okay.
Weston McKennie is a player that I'm going to give actually a 5, a little bit above Musa. I thought McKennie was better than Musa in the first half. When we go to evaluate the second half, I thought everyone was bad. I think McKennie was worse than Musa in the second half, by the way. I thought
he looked
McKennie was
tired, to be honest.
Yeah, might have gassed out. We don't know what's going on there. I'm giving McKennie a 5. I thought it was an average performance, mainly because I thought he was good in the first half. I thought, for the most part, he was very good in the first. I liked what I saw from McKennie in the first half of this match, not so much in the second one. And if he was gassed out, I mean, maybe he needs to work on that fitness, because he shouldn't be gassing out that early into the game.
I have never seen him run that much, though.
So that's the thing, because I think I texted you twice in the first half, Derek, that McKennie was an absolute beast.
He was all over the place.
He was all over the place, breaking up plays. He recovered a lot and stopped. I think 2 shots in one transition.
Yeah.
His first half was completely different than the second half, and thank goodness. I don't think it was necessarily part of his plan, but thank goodness Berhalter ended up subbing him out.
Yep.
Because the second half was not that great by any means, but his first half was incredibly solid. I thought it was incredibly solid.
This was line to line first half. Like, it was lots of sprinting. And if you watch him play at Juve, he doesn't sprint that much ever.
No.
I mean, this was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I don't think anybody was prepared, especially with the responsibilities that the double pivot had in front of that back line. Yeah, they were gassed. I thought Musa looked gassed by the end of the game too, frankly, because I don't think either of them have had to do that much continuous sprinting on their clubs that they play for.
And going on from those two, we have Gio Reyna. And I'm going to go with Gio and say probably trying to think about Gio's performance. I thought he only played in the first half. That's the thing where we were all good. Most of the players were good.
A+.
And he had some good moments too in the first half. It's kind of hard to judge because he was pulled off at halftime. And then when we fell off, it wasn't because Gio was pulled out. I'm going to actually give Gio on this performance. I don't think he was outstanding too. I'm not going to say that. But I thought he was good. Had some good moments with Timothy Weah, held the ball well. Very technical player, very dangerous too. And like you said, does make Germany concerned or any opponent concerned when you're facing Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Balogun. I'm going to go and give Gio probably a 6.5. So 6.5, somewhere between 6.5 and 7. I thought he was good. He only played on the good half also. So there's that. But I'll give him a 6.5, somewhere between that or 7-ish, something like that.
I would give him a 7 as well, or a 7. But the thing about Gio is, and what makes him stand out, kind of like Pulisic, he carries that sort of almost arrogance. And I just think we just need that on the pitch. And I'm glad. I just felt so much better watching this game, knowing he was in there. And I told Brett at halftime, I said, I need more. I want to see more. I know we're not. Yeah, I know we're not going to, but I need to see more Gio. And 7 for me.
Okay. I actually have a 6.5 written down for him. And you bring up a great point. It was only a first half when we were solid, but I think he didn't have. I mean, when breaking down the defense, again, he didn't get the ball all that often. I mean, he got the ball a handful of times in obvious, significant positions in the field. A couple times he came back, did one touch over here, trap pass. I think the obvious aspect is his confidence with the ball when he gets it with his back, and he makes his cut, he makes his move, and he is just so fucking smooth, just running with it. Yep. And it looks like he's just gliding through the pitch.
He's always dangerous. That's the thing. Yeah. Always dangerous.
Yeah.
Should be taking set pieces, by the way. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We'll talk about Pulisic in a second.
So I think 6.5 is what I had, and like Derek said, I wanted to see more. I knew he was going to go out in half, but I wanted to see more.
Yep.
Wait, hold on. Someone gave Gio a 4.5.
Dre. It looks like Dre Marley gave it.
No, not 4.5. I gave me and Derek. We all gave him roughly a 7. That's what we think for Gio.
Right.
But in the chat, Dre Marley looks like he's giving him
okay. So not us. Yeah. So let's go through here. Another starting 11. Tim Weah. I thought Tim Weah was very good. I thought he was good in the first half, but somewhat abysmal in the second half. Like very bad in the second half. And then it becomes one of those where like the player was very good in the first half and terrible in the second one. I'm going to give way. I had some good crosses, some good moments since I showed his pace. There was one moment where he just blasted past Florian Wirtz. It was amazing. And got a good cross, I think, to Balogun that he almost scored. I'm going to give Way a 4.5, mainly because of that second half. That's what drew it down. Otherwise, he would have gotten a very good rating. I'm going to say slightly below average because that second half was way below what we expect from Timmy Weah.
So how many of these scores are getting affected just from the change of our midfield
in the formation?
You bring in that like I said, that 10 minutes before Berhalter finally made that shift back, and then all of a sudden the team looked a little bit better. It wasn't first half better, but it was a little bit better. And I feel like the scores are really taking a massive hit from that 10-minute segment there.
A lot.
So,
not 10. It was a bit more than 10. It was around minute like 63, almost 20 minutes into the second half that he changed.
The second goal happened like around the 56 or something like that. So maybe a few minutes after that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so a lot. It's playing a big role in the second half because that's where we lost the game.
Yeah, I can't, like Brett says, I can't punish Weah for the change of formation, back to Berhalter ball. So I'm just going to give him a 5.
I mean, I wonder whose decision it was for Weah to come back and play wingback at some points. Was that a thing where Weah's like, Scally's already up. I'm just going to sit back here a bit.
Yeah,
I think that was kind of a, hey, let's see what happens. Scally, once you get up into the attack, Weah, if you could check back. And play more,
like since Scally's such a freaking great attacking
I didn't
player.
understand that too, because like we kept pushing Scally up the high up the field, and then we have Weah behind Scally. Weah is far more dangerous going forward.
100%. Yeah,
that made no sense to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't once, because once it can happen, right? Let's say Scally's caught up high of the field, Weah drops. That's fine. But it seemed like almost was like Greg Berhalter was like, let's do this because it's gonna trick the Germans. It's like, yeah, let's put someone that's completely useless on the right wing. That's gonna trick them. As a matter of fact, they probably loved it.
Do I go and mark him, or do I let him cross it? I don't know what's happening here.
Just let Scally cross it. Don't even bother guarding him. Yeah.
What about now? I'm not gonna go first on this one because this one's actually very tricky. What about Christian Pulisic? It has to be a tricky one. I'm not going to give my rating. I'm going to let you go first there. But just a few things. Scored a freaking beautiful goal. That's going to give him some points. Also wasted a chance where he tried to dive to get a penalty kick. Made some good runs. Looked fairly good in the first half. Then the second half went back to that Pulisic from Oman and Uzbekistan. Corners were pretty mediocre for the most part. Not great. Some of them were okay, but not consistently good. How do you rate Pulisic? I can't give him a 5, for example, which is average, because that goal was just something else and he had some good one. But Derek, rate Pulisic. Good luck.
I mean, if first half you give him an 8, second half you don't massively punish him because of the change of formation. But it looked more like Oman and Uzbekistan, where we played the same Greg ball, right? Greg ball is not something Pulisic thrives in. Nobody thrives in Greg ball. You switch to BJ ball and things start looking better. So I'm gonna say 8 first half and then like a 5 in the 4. So I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a 7 as well. What?
Can you see it?
7.
B plus. I give him 7. Yeah,
7's around.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe I'm gonna bump Pulisic maybe to, what did I get? Maybe 7. Yeah, 7 is fine, mainly because of it's all the first half and then obviously the goal. It's hard to give him more than that. I don't know. So I see some people in the chat putting 8.5. I can't. Like that second half was just too bad. The set pieces, maybe he shouldn't be taking them, as we talked about.
Be. Right.
Well, as you said, the set pieces were average. I mean, there were some bad ones. There were some good ones that he was lacing in there. It's just the German defense and everything just got to them first.
I wanted to see Reina take some set just to see how he does.
Yes, I agree with that.
Just to test it. I'm going to give him a 7, which again, a 7 is a good performance overall. Like when you look into it, it's a good performance. 5 is average, 7 is good. Even though, when you take into account the whole game. Another tricky one. I can go first on this one. Floating Balogun. It's a bit complicated to judge. I don't think we provided him the service that he needs. Not in regards to touches, but just like feeding him off the runs that he makes. But he did have an opportunity to score, and I think he failed. He should have probably got that cross. He should have probably got it. Who crossed it again? I think it was Weah. He did get the assist. Yeah. He did have the combination play with the assist because, again, we said Pulisic did 90% of that goal. But Balogun, I guess he got 10% of that goal. Like he did something. It was still a combination play between him and Pulisic, which sometimes if you're playing with the center for like Zard is, it wouldn't be able to combine, right? So having Balogun, at least you can combine. If you had Zardes there, nothing would have happened in that.
Zardes would have scored that from the pass from Weah because he would have hit it with like his butt cheek or
it would have bounced off his junk and gone in. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't be harsh on Balogun like some people said because I think the service wasn't there and he got an assist. I'm going to give him a 5. I'm going to say average. I think it's hard to judge. I'm going to say average performance, not horrendous, not perfect. Can't give him. Normally a player that gets an assist usually gets a good performance or gets that bump. I'm giving him a 5. I'll say average for Balogun.
So I'd give him a 6. And that's simply when he I know we got the assist and I know it wasn't much to it, but he didn't really do all that much, but he didn't really do all that much wrong. he's falling victim of Berhalter ball, quite frankly, the system where the nines are just absolutely useless.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to change. And thank goodness he at least tried to change the nines by adding an offensive-minded player in Gio into the midfield. But we need to see more than just the first 45 minutes of that.
Yeah.
To really see it come fruition.
You can't say he ghosted because he tried. He ran around a lot, you know.
Good job.
Because he
didn't ghost because he
tried. He tried. Just nobody looked up and found him. He was making the runs. He was doing everything that he does for his club team. Just, either A, no one found him in the first half, but like I said, leave Reina in for another 20, 30 minutes. And maybe he does find him. And then, B, once they switch to Greg ball, then he's just not going to get anything. It's just going to be a disaster. So I would give him a 5-2 because you can't either that. You got to give him no grade at all because he just wasn't included in the play. How do you grade somebody who showed up to take the test and nobody
you took the test from them? You took the
pen.
You
just yanked the test out of their hands and say you're not allowed to take it. So there you go.
Take that test in blood.
No, but let's go with this here. Now, the first player off the bench was Luca De La Torre at halftime for Gio Reyna, so we can wrap things up. We're going to go towards the ratings of the bench players. I thought Luca De La Torre was not good. I understand that he was a bit of a victim of the system that was implemented once he was in, but at the same time, I'm criticizing everyone regardless of the system. I'm saying who played well or not, whatever. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't good. And even when they shifted, De La Torre still didn't look too good. I still think he's a good player, but I'm going to have to give him a 3. It was one of the worst performers on the field, in my opinion. I understand he was somewhat set up for fail with the way it was set up, but I'm giving him a 3. It wasn't good.
Well, he wasn't the same. He's not the same Luca De La Torre that we saw against Uzbekistan. It wasn't the same one we see at Celta.
No, it's definitely not the one we see at Celta.
It was a poor performance. Hands down. I mean, and I know Derek and I have always been avid supporters of Luca De La Torre, but you call it for what it is. It was a bad performance.
Yeah, I'd say a 3 or a 4 or 3.5. It's
somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
it's definitely well below average.
It's a D.
And who's next here? Let me pull up the subs. So then he made 3 subs. Wait, sorry, what?
I said it's well below average, and Derek goes, "Yeah, it was a D." So I'm just saying, there's so many jokes you can make there.
Brett's making dick jokes.
Not here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But then we made 3 substitutions at minute 66 when we were already down 3-1, and Greg had already shifted back to more or less the formation we looked in the first half. So the players that came in there, they benefited from that. We already had sort of adjusted back to looking like a team again. And the 3 players that came off the bench were Brendan Aronson for Weah, Cameron Carter-Vickers for Richards, and Pepe for Balogun. I'm gonna give my ratings of those 3 quickly, and then I'm gonna give it to you guys. I thought Brendan actually looked bright off the bench, to many fans' surprise, because he hasn't been good for Union Berlin. Obviously, he's on the floor as always, gets pushed around, but was able to draw a nice foul, looked very much involved. I'm actually going to give Brendan it's funny because it'll be almost like the same rating as Pulisic, like a 7, and Pulisic scored, but Brendan didn't have really a bad moment in the game. And didn't have a bad moment. So I'm giving him a 7. And then, what about you, Derek?
I was going to say 6.5. I thought for a second there he's going to dribble through the whole team, but then I'm like, no, he's going to fall eventually. But he did, and then he did fall. But I thought for just a second, but he got the foul, right?
Oh, and then that time, yes.
And then what did I text you, Brett, when he's taking the free kick? I said, "Can the seas part again?"
I tweeted that the exact same time you texted it to me. I'm like, I'm so eager to use that video again. Yeah. I spent a whole 40 minutes creating that 7-second video that I want to use it more often.
Yep. So yeah, I'm with you, Tech.
Yeah, I was saying the 6.5. I mean, quite frankly, the Aronson that we saw coming in, high energy. He split a couple players, but then what happens afterwards? Nothing. Right. It's that pass that comes after you take on 1 or 2 players, open up the pitch a bit. He's got to figure that out. He had one nice one where he laced it across the box to, I think, Paredes at the time. And then I think Paredes tried to pass to Dest, which I was like, why are you passing him? He's practically on the end line at that point. But I don't know. I thought it was an above average game for Aronson. It's what we expect. What I expect to see from him. I don't expect anything bigger and better than that per se. Yeah,
Well,
6.5.
It's a lot of stroking with a little finish. That's kind of how it happens with Aronson.
Yeah.
Good one. And then Aronson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, he came on, and I mean, like we said, everything was readjusted, and he didn't have also a bad moment. Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's a defender, and usually when a defender is not talked about much, he probably had a good game. It's kind of like the ref. I usually say this about the ref. If you don't talk much about the ref in the post game, it means he did a good job. If you don't talk about him, so I'll say Cameron Carter-Vickers probably like a 6, above average game, no mistakes, nothing great. Probably wasn't as tested as some of the other guys were before. Germany also made some subs and also started to attack a bit less. There's that. They scored a third goal and they didn't care as much anymore. And they put Kai Havertz, that at this point with his form, it's almost like playing man down, even though he's
Did Havertz come in? I didn't even notice.
Yeah. He played.
He took, I recall because he took Dest on. I was like, oh no.
I give Carter-Vickers a 6.
I'll go with a 6 as well.
I mean,
I think he's going to start next game over Richards.
I mean, I think I think I can count on one hand how many times he actually touched the ball. So I mean, he didn't do anything bad. So I mean, at that point, can you rate him low just because he wasn't as active?
He touched the ball.
Like I said, he touched it. I can count on about one hand.
Okay,
but no, I think a 6 is fine. Again, he didn't do anything wrong.
Next is Ricardo Pepi, and Pepi was good in some pressing moments, was able to combine a little bit. He actually, when you really look into it, obviously because it fits a bit more his style of play, he's not the one making those runs like Balogun. He looked a bit better than Balogun, if we're being completely honest. I still think Balogun's the best player, but Pepi looked a bit better. I'm actually going to give Pepi a similar rating to Carter-Vickers. He wasn't as good as Aronson when Aronson came in, but I'm going to give Pepi a 6. I thought for what he could have done, he did fine for what he could have done.
That's fair.
He's had years to become accustomed to Berhalter ball. And it shows because he capitalizes on the time he gets.
The scraps.
It's there. And there was one time in the box where I wish he would have just done like a one-time toe poke almost. Yeah. But instead he pulled it back and kind of got dispossessed, and then Aronson got it, and then he sat on the ball for too long and it got kicked out. I'm like, just shoot the ball. That's all I got to do.
Toe poke it.
It might not result in anything, but it's definitely going to be better than what resulted there.
Nothing.
Yeah. I think a 6 is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's one of those things that then we're just like nitpicking. 6, 5.5, 6, exactly, 5.5. It doesn't matter.
He made one foul pass. It's a 5.5.
We move on a couple minutes, and then at minute 75, Kevin Paredes and Johnny Cardoso come in, and those were the last 2 subs. Johnny seemed to be a little bit involved when he came on, like early on. Then after that, I don't remember much. Had a really nice, like kind of like back heel moment. Looked safe on the ball. Had some good tackles, like more towards the final third, more towards on the offensive side of the field. Him and Kevin Paredes, I don't see much how to rate it. I think Kevin Paredes definitely won't be a starter over Pulisic. I think what Johnny did, the few minutes he has, because he always comes in and has a few minutes, he looked competent enough that probably should get more minutes against Ghana. That's about it. I don't feel like maybe rating those two because of the amount of minutes. Like it was like 15 minutes on a dead game. But I thought Johnny at least should get minutes against Ghana because every time he comes in, it's always like at the end of the game. And then everyone's like, oh, is he good? Is he bad? I can't tell. Like, oh, what did he do? I don't know. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to rate them. I don't know about you guys.
I'll say Johnny's limited minutes this match. He was more confident with the ball than he had in the previous U.S. men's national team performances, in my opinion. I think he looked better. But again, it's such limited time. You're right. You can't necessarily say, "Oh, he didn't do anything wrong." It's a 7.5, But
it's like handing a person a test that's going to take an hour, and after 15 minutes, you say, "Sorry, you got to stop answering the questions on the test." But the questions that he was able to get to, he didn't screw any of them up, really. So
he looked better than Tanner Tessman last game.
Yes. For sure. Yep.
Last but not least, so we can end it, Greg Berhalter. I'll go first on Berhalter to save you guys on that. I'll take the pressure on this one. Lineup, very good. The lineup was very good.
Hey.
First half, the way he wanted us to play, the way we were set up, for the most part, I don't have much to complain about there. Second half change. I understand he had to sub out Gio Reyna. He had to do it. Can't play more than 45 minutes right now,
Right.
but there were different ways he could have done that. He could have kept the same system, same formation, tested someone else there. Maybe put McKennie up top, almost like a second striker in that scenario. Can crash, like try to get some headers.
Crash the box.
So I thought he messed up on that. I will give him credit that a little bit too late, because then Germany scored 2 goals and he switched back, so he recognized it. And in terms of subs, for the most part, he put the players that were like, yeah, these are the players that you should put. He could have put like Miles Robinson in, that wouldn't have done anything. Put Carter Vickers to get some minutes. So as incredible as this may sound, I actually think Berhalter deserves probably like a 6. I thought it was above average. I don't think he was horrendous today. I still think he continues to mess up, and he's probably the main reason we lost when he changed at halftime and we conceded 2 goals to Germany. He switched back a little too late. But I don't think he was as horrendous as normally he is, in my opinion. And I'm trying to be nice to him here.
So for me, it's like that girl you go on a date with, right? And you're like, my regular game ain't good enough. So I talked to my friend BJ, and he gave me like how I should do this, right? And so I start out the date. We're having a great date. Things are going great because I'm using BJ's advice, right? So, and then the dinner's over, right? And we're off to go see the movie. And I'm like, man, this is going so good. I'm feeling so comfortable. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just go back to being me, right? And that's what he did at halftime. He said, I'm just going to go out and be me. And then everything started going wrong. She's like, who is this guy? I thought he was real. And now he's just kind of, what's wrong with him? He can't speak. He says weird things. He acts weird. By the way, number of the players have behind the scenes called Greg a weird guy, and I quote. So he went back to weird Greg, or normal Greg, which is weird Greg, and it started to fall apart. So he figured it out and tried to go back to the BJ game, but it was too late, right? Too late. The date was blown. So yeah, I'm going to give him I'll give him 5.5 or a 6 just for figuring out that Greg Ball sucks. I think that's
it sucks in that moment. It sucks in that moment. Who knows? If only, you left off a bit there, Derek. You left off the bit where the girl went back and hung out with her friends, like, yeah, this guy seemed pretty nice. And then he started mumbling about BJ's, and it got really weird.
His system.
I mean, what's to complain about the first half? There's nothing really to complain. I mean, that was the lineup that we had. So clearly, Greg was right. I mean, everything it was predicted. I mean, obviously predicted. Obviously, Gio's coming on this second half. So I mean, the first half was almost perfect. I mean, hard to argue against it. And then you had the second half, which again started horrendous, and then course correction. At that point, the game was done.
Done.
We could have maybe put one away. Whether it was Musa on the missed corner or Pepe or Aronson actually shooting the ball would have been nice. There could have been a consolation goal, but definitely was lost by the time he did the course correction. The fact that he went back is the problem. So you go almost from a perfect score to a not so perfect score. And I think you guys are right. I think the 6 is about accurate.
Yeah, I think it goes back also when we judge Greg, it goes back to that story that you guys probably heard it before, the one that I told about the dad that brings a pig into his household. Everyone in the chat knows it. So I'll tell you then, Derek, since you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know that.
So you have this dad. He's like taking care of his family. His wife doesn't work. She takes care of the home. But the home that he lives with his 2 daughters and his wife it's terrible. It leaks. The AC doesn't work properly. The dishwashers, bro, everything's terrible. And they're all complaining about the house, and the dad has to work. And he doesn't have the ability or the money to fix those issues like Greg. So this is what the dad does. One day he's going to work and he buys a pig. He goes home and he just puts the pig in the house. All of a sudden, everyone in the house is complaining about that smelly pig. But what he does is he keeps that pig there for months. Then he finally takes the pig out. Once the pig is out, no one's complaining about the problems that were previously there.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what Greg is.
Is this an old Brazilian tale?
Yeah, we have a lot of Brazilian tales. There's also the cow in the leather ball. There's also the water hitting your ass. The cow one is the best one. It's like the ball is made of leather. Leather comes from the cow. The cow eats grass. Put the ball in the freaking grass. Stop kicking it up.
Okay. We Germans have a lot of those too. I'll share some in another time
on your stream. But everyone,
Yeah.
I'm going to go through the super chats very quickly to wrap things up, and we're going to close it here. Drop a like while we're reading it, and we'll be back soon. So Abubakar is saying, if we get beat by Ghana, then it's over. We can accept Germany. I can accept if we get beat by what do you mean? If we lose to Ghana, you're going to be happy about the
No,
Germany?
he's saying if we get beat by Ghana, then it's over for Greg. He can accept losing to Germany, but if we lose to Ghana, you're out.
Oh, got it.
It doesn't matter what you want to accept, my friend, because guess what? He and Betty Crocker are like this. Yeah, he's going nowhere.
Michael's saying, made a friend at the game who gave me a German flag. Yeah, that's what this sport is about too. Fans getting together, hanging out, having fun. It really unites people, usually for the most part, with some exceptions, of course. Wuxia Game Central saying Western earned his ranch drenched pizza. I don't think he earned it. I think he should probably not eat it, in my opinion.
Funny thing is, we had pizza last night, and my son put ranch on his pizza. I'm like, okay, it's fine, whatever. And he puts it on there. And he has like half a piece of pizza. And he's like, I'm full. Can we save this? I'm like, no, it's drenched in ranch. You're not going to save that. Throw it in the trash.
Yeah, gross.
Soccer Savin is saying, are we sure Pulisic dived? No knee contact on the goalkeeper. So on the replay, it looked like it was. I need to rewatch it. Maybe he didn't dive. Maybe I was wrong. Again, I'm watching the game, doing the stream. We're all watching the game. Maybe on the highlights, we'll be able to see it better. But it did look like it was not a penalty kick. But who knows? Maybe it was.
It was minimal.
Did you notice immediately afterwards he got the goal? And it was basically his facial expression was like screw you type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
About the whole thing. So I think he really felt contact. I think he went down and he was pissed that he didn't get the PK. So then he scored a goal and he basically rubbed it in their face.
So maybe there was contact, but not enough for a penalty kick.
It was kind of a scruff, a scrape. I don't know how you describe that, but.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like right now if you haven't already, or if you're in the rewatch of this. And if you don't know who they are, which you probably should, they're the Straight Red Cards, Derek and Brett. I put their handle on the description. They do live streams every week, so go check it out. Thanks for watching.
Mondays and Thursdays.
Mondays and Thursdays. Just subscribe to their channel. You'll get the notification.
Yeah.
Okay? Ciao. Have a great weekend. Oh, tomorrow we have the 7 things we learned. Bye.